At some point in your life, someone sat across from you and asked the question. Maybe it was a parent, a teacher, a career counselor. Maybe it was just the slow, quiet pressure of everyone around you seeming to know exactly who they were. What do you want to do with your life? And something in you hesitated. Not because you had no answer, but because you had too many. You were interested in writing and in science, in building things and in understanding people, in art and in systems and in history. And instead of that being celebrated, it made you feel like something was wrong with you. Like you were scattered, unfocused, immature. Like everyone else had figured out the one thing, and you were still flipping channels on a TV that wouldn't land anywhere. So you did what they told you. You picked something. You narrowed yourself down. And somewhere in that narrowing, a quiet part of you went dark. This video is for that part. Here's what nobody told you. You were never broken. You were never scattered. You were a different shape. Most of the modern world operates on what's called an I-shaped model of a person, deep expertise in one vertical slice of knowledge. Then, for the more ambitious, there's the T-shape, depth in one area, breadth across others. Companies love this. Universities teach to this. LinkedIn profiles are built around it. But researchers studying design engineers at the International Conference on Engineering Design found something quietly radical, and when they actually mapped the skill profiles of experienced professionals, 75% of them didn't look like AT at all. Their profiles looked more like an M, or a comb. Multiple deep areas of expertise, not just one, connected by a broad base of knowledge underneath. They weren't scattered. They were multi-peaked. And that changes everything about how you should think about your life. Think of your brain, for a moment, like a radar system. Most people are told to point their radar in one direction and go deep. And the radar gets very, very good at detecting things in that one corner of the sky. But your radar, if you're someone who's always been drawn to many things, is rotating. It's scanning. And for a long time, you've been told that's a malfunction. It isn't. Neuroscientists have found that curiosity, the real kind, the kind that pulls you toward new ideas the way gravity pulls water, activates the brain's dopaminergic reward system. The same circuitry that fires when you experience pleasure fires when you encounter genuine novelty. A 2014 study by Gruber, Gelman, and Rongenot, published in the journal Neuron, showed that when curiosity is activated, the hippocampus, your memory center, becomes dramatically more efficient. People retained information better, not just about what they were curious about, but about everything they encountered in that state. In other words, curiosity doesn't just make learning feel good. It makes learning work. And here's the part no one talks about: neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to build new connections, thrives specifically in people who move between domains. Every time you learn something new and connect it to something you already understand, you're not spreading yourself thin. You're building what scientists call transfer pathways, neural bridges between fields that most specialists simply don't have. The person who understands both biology and economics can see things in an ecosystem that neither a biologist nor an economist alone would ever find. Now zoom out. Way out. For most of human history, survival wasn't a specialization game. A hunter-gatherer who only knew how to track animals but couldn't read weather, navigate terrain, treat wounds, or read social dynamics within the tribe, that person didn't last. Evolution didn't reward pure depth. It rewarded adaptive breadth with contextual depth. It rewarded the person who knew many things well enough, and a few things deeply. The M-shape isn't a modern curiosity. It's ancient hardware. The Industrial Revolution changed the equation. Factories needed people who could do one thing, repeatably, efficiently. And the education systems built during that era, which are largely the systems still running today, were optimized to produce exactly that. Pick a lane. Learn the lane. Stay in the lane. But here's the painful irony: The world those factories built no longer needs that person as desperately. The world of 2025 is screaming for people who can sit at the intersection of things. Who can translate between a data scientist and a designer. Who can see a business problem through a psychological lens. Who can write about science in a way that moves people. Specialists are still valuable. But the rarest, most interesting, most needed people are the ones who can build bridges between worlds. So how do you actually build an M-shaped life? You don't collect hobbies. You cultivate peaks. A peak is a domain where you've done serious work. Not casual dabbling, genuine study, practice, failure, iteration. You don't need 10 of them. The letter M only has 2. Pick 2 or 3 areas that genuinely fascinate you, and go deep enough in each that you can stand in them with confidence. Then, and this is the move that changes everything, you look for the intersection. What does psychology have to do with your interest in design? What does your background in music tell you about rhythm and timing in storytelling? What does everything you've learned in one field illuminate in the other? Emily Wapnick, whose 2015 TED Talk introduced millions of people to the concept of the multipotentialite, said it plainly: people with multiple passions have a superpower called idea synthesis, the ability to pull threads from completely different fields and weave something entirely new. That synthesis is not available to the specialist. It requires someone shaped like an M. You don't need to explain yourself to every job description that asks for one clean title. What you need is to stop hiding your range, and start designing around it. Find the work that needs more than one of your peaks at once. Build projects that live at the crossroads. Write from the overlap. Teach from the edge between your worlds. There is a quote, often misquoted in its short form, that says, "A jack of all trades is a master of none." What most people don't know is that the original version continues, though oftentimes better than a master of one. Someone, somewhere along the way, cut that line off. And an entire culture grew up believing only half the thought. The M-shape is not a compromise. It's not what you settle for when you couldn't pick just one thing. It is, for some people, the most honest and fully realized version of who they are. The world will always have room for deep specialists. It will always need them. But it also needs the people who stand at the edge of 2 mountains and can see both valleys at once. That's you. Stop trying to flatten yourself into a line. You were always meant to be a landscape.